The relationship between flared ribs and overinflation. So what is this, beauty teens? This isn't a house anymore. This is your lung. Let's use a house as a metaphor for your lung. Now, for most people, isn't it the case that the right side of the lung is less inflated and the left side is more inflated? There's a line like this, on one side air can get in and on the other it can't. Is it this side that can inflate now? Or is it that side that can inflate? It can't be inflated here, but where's the aversion? Is it better to inflate the ribs in this area? Then let me ask. If we divide the lung into 4 equal parts, is it divided into left and right, right? There's also a horizontal line dividing it into top and bottom, which is 4 equal parts. Then in these 4 equal parts, which space do you think is easier to inflate? Is it the lowest pressure here? Is it right? Is it the easiest to inflate here? There is a line like this. Then this is the easiest to inflate because your ribs are turned out because of your ribs. When we stand like this, my right ribs are rotated inward like this and my left ribs are rotated outward like this. So when the left ribs rotate outward, originally I stood on my right leg and the pressure on my right side was strong, so it rushed to the left side. My entire left side is easier to inflate than the right side. As a result, my left ribs are rotated outward again, so the pressure here becomes the lowest. Do you understand? Because here, my ribs are externally rotated. After external rotation, isn't the pressure lower? If the pressure here is even lower, it becomes easier for this area to fill with air. That's why many people appear to have a bloated or uncomfortable stomach. In your case, it's that this part of your lung is more inflated. It's not that your stomach is actually bigger. So here's the question. If the left side of my lung is more inflated than the right, and the lower part of the left side is more inflated than the upper part of the left side, is that a correct way to understand it? Because air naturally flows to areas of lower pressure. In theory, the lower part of my left lung should function better. But in reality, it doesn't. Do you know why that is? It's because air can only go in, but can't be expelled effectively. Since the ribs are flared outward, it means the ability to draw them back in is compromised. They can open up, but can't retract, so they end up staying open all the time. What happens if it stays open all the time? The air that gets into this part of the lung can never get out. You can think of it like having a 200 square meter house, but 100 square meters of it are unusable. There are only 100 bottles left and 100 bottles can be used. The people inside can't get out because of these 50 bottles. So you can think of those 50 square meters as a storage room, which means the only usable space is right here. Do you understand? So now the usable capacity of a person's lungs is mostly just this part. This part can't be used. Why? The air here can't get out. And it's packed full of stuff inside, so you can't put anything new in. So you can also think of it as the lower part of the left lung being constantly filled with air that can't escape, because your left ribs can't internally rotate. Since you can't internally rotate, you can't squeeze it out. Your left diaphragm sinks even lower, and you can't lift it up, nor can you push the air out from here. So this area is wasted. The problem you have here is called overinflation. There is overinflation in the lower part of your left lung. So the whole lung ends up like this. 3/4, you're only using the upper quarter of your left lung, and the remaining 3/4 aren't functioning well. So how can your breathing be good? If you want to make better use of half of this side, you have to be able to close it off. You need to create pressure here. Only when there's higher pressure on this side can you push air to the other side, right? If there's no pressure here, you can't push air over there. So think about it. Who is beneath the lower part of the left lung? The stomach. So, if the lower part of your left lung is always filled with air and pressing down on your stomach, can your stomach function properly? That's why in general, people with flared ribs often have poor stomach function, because there's always something pressing down on their stomach. The air here, their ribs aren't able to push it out, and their diaphragm isn't able to push it up, so it just stays trapped inside, constantly pressing on the stomach. That's why these past couple of days, didn't a girl mention this yesterday? In the evening during class, she hadn't eaten because the food she ate at lunch was still sitting here, pressing against her by the evening. Do you know why it feels like that? It's because the space in your stomach has been encroached upon. Normally, when you breathe in, your lungs move downward, but when you exhale, they move back up, freeing up space for your stomach. That way, your stomach can hold food. But if your lungs are always filled with air and constantly pressing down, never moving back up, then your stomach loses its space. You see, the space in your stomach is being squeezed out. If your stomach is constantly being pressed like this, can it possibly function well? Of course, you'll feel nauseous. Of course, even a little food will feel stuck here. And of course, you won't be able to digest properly. So if you really want to solve this problem, you have to find a way to let the air out from the lower part of your left lung. Only when you let it out will the pressure on your stomach decrease. When the pressure here lessens, it's just like, well, it's like my house. If you can't fit things in your house and I leave my stuff at your place without taking it away, I'm taking up your space, right? Your house won't function well anymore, will it? It's the same principle. Under normal circumstances, I'm just on a business trip and my package is only stored at your place temporarily, so it's normal. When I inhale, I just temporarily take up a bit of your space, and when I exhale, it goes back up. So, normally, the lower part of the lung fills with air because it's connected to the stomach, and this actually helps the stomach function. But if this area gets filled with air and it can't go up, it ends up suppressing the function of the stomach instead. That's why I explained to everyone yesterday that everything in this world, no matter what it is, can only continue to develop sustainably if there's both cooperation and opposition. If there's only opposition or only cooperation, it definitely won't last. Our lungs and stomach work together in this way. When you inhale, you squeeze me a bit. When you exhale, you give me a pull. That's how it works. But now if the spine doesn't pull me anymore and only squeezes me, how could I possibly feel okay? That's why so many people... Most people develop stomach problems like this because they're unable to expel the air from the lower part of their left lung. So generally, people with flared ribs have excessive air trapped in the lower left side of their lungs. It goes in but can't get out. In such cases, after you correct the rib flare, the biggest improvement is that their stomach gets better, their stomach function improves, and there's no abdominal pressure or force on the left side. So basically, almost all internal organ problems are related to breathing. Some people might ask, what about inflammation or stones inside? How is that related? How could this be connected? Let me explain to you. He doesn't even need to explain it further. The laws of everything in the world are the same. All things return to their origin. If a path isn't walked, weeds will grow on it. If water isn't stirred, duckweed will cover it. If your internal organs don't move for a long time, stones will form inside, or tumors will develop. Because there's no movement, you're not using them. So for example, kidney stones can be understood as the kidneys not being active enough for a long time. Tumors in the internal organs mean that organ hasn't really moved for decades. Nah, that's why. When it comes to flared ribs, correcting them is absolutely not just about appearance. It's not simply about pressing them down to look better. After you press them down, the function of your entire side, your digestive system, and your internal organs all improve. And now you can understand this house analogy, right? Yes, I probably found a very beautiful picture just to deepen your impression. That's why I stayed up for dozens of nights just to give you the best presentation. It's just to help you remember more clearly. The next point is that parts of the lungs that are rarely used or not used at all will atrophy and collapse over time. If this goes on for too long, you won't be able to get air into those areas. So, which part of the lungs is not being used? It's the lower part of the left lung that is constantly filled with air, while the inside of the right lung can't get air in for a long time. Therefore, if you don't fill your lungs with air for an extended period, their elasticity will deteriorate. Later on, even if you want to get air in, you won't be able to, or at best, you'll only be able to get a limited amount in. So now, for many people, the right lung is atrophied, and the lower part of the left lung is overinflated. Your lungs are already in this condition, and then if you keep smoking hard, you end up putting even more strain on the only remaining upper part of your left lung. You can think of it this way. Your exhalation function is poor, so the smoke you inhale can't be fully expelled. That's why so many people's lungs are blackened beyond recognition. What I want to express is that for modern people, your lungs are already functioning at a very low efficiency, so you really shouldn't be putting them through extra damage. They're already not working well, but if all these parts were functioning properly, sure, if your lung function is good, that's fine, but our lungs today aren't like they used to be when we did manual labor. You can think of it as now only a quarter of our lungs are functioning well, whereas back when we did physical labor, almost 3/4 or even all 4/4 of our lungs were in good shape. You'll notice that nowadays lung cancer and tumors in the lungs are much more common than before. Some people say it's because in the past we didn't have the means or technology to do imaging tests. That's possible, but even so, we're doing far more imaging now than we did back then.